Hello everyone, my name is Sheetal. Welcome to our channel Sitaretalks, and today we have our guest Frank Vorrath, who is a Vice President at Danfoss Climate Solutions. So welcome Frank at our show, and thanks for giving us this opportunity to have this one-on-one interaction with you.
Yeah, and thanks for having me. Look really forward having a good conversation today with you.
Yeah. So Frank, let's start with our introduction. Why don't you tell us about your work at Danfoss? And for those who don't know about Danfoss, what Danfoss does, if you could just talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, first of all, welcome at Danfoss, and thanks for coming to our beautiful office here in Hamburg.
Yeah,
let me talk a little bit about Danfoss. Danfoss is a family-owned company, 91 years around, believe it or not. 40,000, or a little bit over 40,000 people by now, with 92 production sites, and we operate in many countries around the world, right? And also we have three segments in Danfoss. One I represent, Danfoss Climate Solutions, we have Danfoss Power Solutions, and we have Danfoss Drives. And where we are is really a lot about heating, cooling, that's Danfoss Climate Solutions, and a lot of components, but also products related to really driving energy efficiencies. Then on the other side, really hydraulic products and really electro motors in power solutions, hoses and power solutions, and then motion control, for example, in drives. So many products, really helping also our customers to decarbonize. So that's pretty much Danfoss, a family-owned company, started in Denmark, at an island called Als, around about 2.5 hours from here. Beautiful drive there. You must come and see us there.
Yeah. And how is your day-to-day work looks like? For example, a person who don't understand the technical jugglery words, for example, how you would like to summarize your work, for example, to a kid like me who would like to understand how it looks for you a day.
Yeah, I mean, a day looks like really making sure that first and foremost our customers are happy, because that's really what's important to us, but also at the same time keeping our employees happy and safe. In supply chain, of course, we need to make sure that we really produce our products in, as I would call it, perfect conditions, but also deliver our products on time and in perfect conditions to our customers. And what keeps us awake is really a lot of disruptions, as we have seen over the last couple of years. Really making sure that we act on that in the most responsive way with our people, but also our systems and technology. We having building more resilient supply chains, but also making sure that we run a very good, solid, profitable business which generates enough cash, which is the lifeblood of our organization, in order to reinvest in our people, but also in our products and innovation, and really what takes us to the next 90 years.
Yeah. Wow. Seems quite interesting, with a big portfolio and a lot of responsibilities, not only limited to the supply chain, but also touching different sectors in the industry, would say. That really keeps you active all the time.
Absolutely. So when you think about, just to give you a little bit of an understanding of complexity, what we're dealing with in climate solution, the segment I'm working in, we have 5 business divisions, roughly 76,000 products in the system, and there's a high variety of complexity involved in that. We serve various regions around the world: India, North America, APAC, China, Europe, Latin America, Africa, Middle East, for example. And of course we have a different set of customers with different needs, and to serve them is driving complexity in our business, which we manage, and of course also will manage going forward, right? And then when you think about the supply chain, we don't just have one supply chain, we have many supply chains, which are also driven by the different business models we having in our segment.
Yeah, quite interesting.
Yeah.
So, the climate topic is really gaining a lot of traction these days. So let's talk about it in a bit. But before that, we know that at such a leadership position, you managed to get an educational degree recently from your uh, institution. Congratulations for that. So, would you like to talk about your recent achievements and your team's achievement with us, and from where you are getting motivation to manage multiple things at one point of time, and at the same time to go and also learn, to keep that learning track active throughout your career?
Yeah, let's start. Really, what drives me? What drives me is really making sure that people and teams get better, right? And that somewhere there's an impact, but also that it becomes more sustainable, right?
Yeah.
And when you think about all these achievements, you're never going to be able to do it just on your own.
Yes.
But out of really great teams and
Yeah.
great people, and
Yeah.
really working with people and building and helping them to achieve great things during their career. That's really what drives me. On the other side is also when you think about the business, and the business go through cycles,
Yeah.
and also making sure that there is performance being built and results which are sustainable,
Yeah.
right? Not just doing something for the purpose of doing something for the purpose of doing great,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that drives me. Now, when you think about my achievements, I don't really want to talk so much about my achievements because in the end of the day, like I said before, it's about the teams.
Yeah.
Now, recently, what we have achieved is coming out of a pandemic. I think we all faced a pandemic,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we needed to adjust a lot of what we are doing, how we are doing things, how adaptable we are, and how quickly we can adjust to situations.
Yeah.
Now, of course, we improved in certain ways to be highly flexible in that, adjusting to situations. Magnitude and frequency of disruptions, they have increased, right? We needed to deal with various events also after the pandemic, and somehow we managed them, right? We also improved our service reliability towards our customers, which is important, because when we think about customers, we think about 100% service reliability mindset.
Yes.
We want to deploy, and of course it's a journey to get there, right? But it's also the mindset. We deploy how we actually serve our customers, and then making sure that with whatever we promise to our customers, if it's with our products or if it's with our service, including our logistics, we really fulfill that promise. We're on a good way of getting better. We're not there where we want to be, but we achieved a lot last year in that regard. On the other side, we also helped our organization to improve on our inventories, which is important. Like I said before, cash is the lifeblood of any organization, right? And making sure that we have free cash flow is important, and we could help our organization also to become better in this. And there's still a way to go, and that's why also we are there to support. And then on the other side, also making sure that we contribute with really our cost savings and keeping costs down as much as possible helps our organization in terms of profitability, which is also important, because you can have a business, but if you don't have a profitable business which generates enough cash for reinvestment in people, but also in innovation, you don't have a business for a very long time, and it's not sustainable. So hence, supply chain is a contributor, and I'm quite proud of what our teams have accomplished.
And I think that is one of the biggest challenges that all the companies were facing during pandemic, as you said, keeping your profitability high while fulfilling the customer demand on time. It's a lever that you have to maintain all the time, which seems very, very easy on the paper, but really difficult to implement. So congratulations to your team.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, and especially when you also think about the complexity. Of course, everyone has complexity in a
Yes.
business, and I wouldn't say to you our business is more complex than others.
Yeah.
But it's about how you manage that complexity. Complexity is not going to go away. Complexity is there.
Yeah.
It's about how you manage that with your people, with the capabilities, with the competencies, how you use your technology as an enabler to manage that complexity. At the same time, how you manage volatility. And we have seen a lot of market volatility, especially last year, this year, and so on. As well as how you handle disruptions. How quickly can you adapt?
Correct.
So adaptability, one of the key capabilities for us, but also for many other organizations.
Yeah. And I think that really requires a lot of teamwork and the coordination between team members to achieve the desired results, I think.
Well, in the end of the day, it's all about teams. Great people create great
company.
Great companies or great results in the end of the day. So and that's really when you also need to look after your people, right? Because in the end of the day, we're all facing the same challenges of access to talents. And if you have great people and you can develop great people and they can have great careers, it's also something in the end of the day what drives you from really having a purpose.
True. I think it's one of the biggest achievement for you and your team. Congratulations for that.
Thank you.
So Frank, we are sure you are the great leader because you are always thinking about your team and team members, and definitely would like to share the success stories with your team members and the learnings, of course. So we know that you have been spending the decades in this industry and have been in the leadership roles across different organizations from Gartner to Danfoss. So what advice would you like to share to the future leaders who would like to come in this sector?
Yeah, there's a lot. The first thing is be open, be curious, but also there's a lot of saying about a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. So really never stop learning, be open, explore, be interested, right? And never stop that. And then find yourself a mentor and a great coach. Look
that really makes a lot of
sense. And also look for consistently opportunities to explore different cultures and different countries. Right, and become well-rounded in your view, how you view the world, but how you interact in the world. And that is my own experience. I had a lot of luck in my career, also having a lot of people believing in me and really investing in me. And then also made maybe the one or two really good choices and decisions in my life, and had an opportunity or luck working in many countries, in Germany, in South Africa and Brazil. I commuted between Germany and in the US. Now I'm working in Germany, but also going frequently to Denmark. So it makes you rounded, it makes you better, it makes you wiser, and also the experience then working in different cultures, right? The cultural aspect. The diversity aspect. So advice I would give, a younger generation, just be open to this, explore it. It's fantastic.
I think after talking to you, we know for sure, I think getting an experience across different continents of the world would really makes you a different leader altogether, because you have the perspective about the people from the start, and you would start thinking about the people from an empathetic perspective, and then you would try to address their challenges as a leader, which really makes life simple, right?
If it makes life simple, I don't know, but it makes you better to understand people and also better to cope with situations, I would say. It makes you more, there's a saying of seek to understand. Right. So how can you seek to understand if you never have explored other people, other cultures, diversity, a different approach, a different way of working, all this, right? And that makes you just better or more thoughtful in the end of the day.
And I think at an organization level, it really, really makes a lot of difference.
It makes, and in the end of the day, it does, because we are in a global connected world, if we want or not, but we are all connected somewhere. And if you want to make it work, then you also have to work with cultures in different countries, with people in different countries, with different experiences, skill sets. But you still have to make it work in the end of the day, right? So you have to figure that out in a way. How is it connected, and how can you make it work?
True. We have been talking about the climate change, and we got slightly distracted to the other topics, but let's come back to the original topic. Now, as a leader at Danfoss Climate Solutions, you know, the sustainability and the climate, these are the two hot topics in the world across the board. As a leader at Danfoss Climate Solutions in the same field, how do you see these topics would be tackled in the supply chain world in the future?
Yeah, it's not only a supply chain world. I believe it's a part of the DNA. When we at Danfoss, talk about it, it's our DNA. Sustainability is our DNA. So we also have invested for a very long time in that. Really making sure that the way how we operate, the way how we produce, the way how we source, everything is connected to sustainability, and also the way how we then positioned ourselves is really helping our customers to decarbonize. That's really the way how we operate. Now, why is that so important? Besides the fact that it is important for really leaving a place for future generations where they can work and live, it is also important from a business point of view, because I would say it becomes the normal way of operating, license to operate. I often say about it, you're not going to be able to sell your products in future to any of your customers if you're not making sure that they're actually helping to decarbonize the world. True. So it's a different approach, right? And it's driven from all kind of angles. When you think about also the legislation, legislation is changing, is giving a framework now to drive and take sustainability to the next level. But it's also a lot of companies, have invested. We from Danfoss being first-time movers in that way, science-based targets in that regard. We have been, under the first companies who moved in that space. And now, when you think about also a lot of the investment community talks about climate investment. Right, and when you think also capital allocations from the market point of view, and investors are going into companies who actually can walk the talk or take their own medicine and investing in sustainability. So from that point of view, of course, supply chain is adding to it in a way of really enabling sustainability, right? If you think about how you produce your products and scope 1, scope 2, how you redesign or design your products from a circularity point of view, how you work upstream with your suppliers really on their scope 1 and scope 2, and how this is embedded in your scope 3. So supply chain is really a big contributor when it comes to sustainability, and sustainability is not just reporting and compliance. Sustainability is the way of working and living.
We really need to consider the broader perspective when we talk about the sustainability. And I think in the supply chain world, a small change would really makes a lot of difference from all the aspects of sustainability. As you mentioned, it's not only about the compliance, it's not only about the financial stuff, it's not only about the producing, and it's not only about the collaboration with the supplier. I think it's a big world which will take its own time. Things will be
every little step helps, and if everyone is contributing to it, as a whole, we achieve a lot, right? Because there's a lot at stake at the same time. So what's the alternative? There is no alternative.
Yeah,
so
there is
we
no
need
alternative.
to do it.
Yeah. That's a good initiative, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when we talk about the supply chain world, the other quite fancy term we hear across the board, it's about the artificial intelligence. And this term is coming into the picture. I think it was earlier, but it is becoming now gaining a lot of attention after we have faced COVID, because I think COVID has literally changed the way we are looking at the supply chain world. So as a leader, how do you see this AI will shape the supply chain world in future?
It will, definitely, and there's a lot of hope out there. But first and foremost, we need to understand AI is not a new thing. So traditional AI is around since 1956. And I would say on a traditional AI, the easiest way of describing it is that are prediction systems. Right? So what has changed is the access to data. And of course, computers are faster today, and the machine can handle more data at the same time and can give you certain predictions, right? So that's really traditional AI is not really new. But what is new is generative AI, and generative AI, or related to large language models. Of course, there's a lot of hope in terms of content conversion or content creation, which can drive productivity, but also access to information, AI chatbot or co-pilot, which drives really access to information faster, but also at the same time really driving productivity. So when I look at AI, I have two hats on at the same time. I'm looking at what can generative AI give us in terms of the improvements of our business, making ourselves more productive, or content creation in terms of videos, or access to information in terms of libraries, and also a co-pilot at the same time of having access to knowledge, which exists somewhere, and having easy access for training purposes, or access to documents, or smart procurement contracts and things like that. While the biggest hope for me is more on the traditional AI side. So where I really hope that we're becoming better in our predictions. So how can we predict our supply chains better? How can we act on disruptions coming from geopolitical events, or any disruptions in the supply chains, to understand what the impact is in a business? Or how can we work with artificial intelligence in better ways of predicting what the demand is gonna be? We're never gonna be perfect in that way, but building better scenarios and helping humans really in terms of handling that complexity. So that's a lot of hope in there that we will get there over time, right? And then also having on the one side, I would say, the art and the science, and that means really the human and enabled by technology. Here we talk about artificial intelligence, and a combination of those makes us more effective and productive at the same time, and helps us to make better decisions.
So on one side, when we look at the supply chain, or in general in the business world, of course, AI is going to help us a lot in automation, for example, to help us to improve from a demand planning, for example, improving the forecast productivity, and there are much more benefits beyond that. But at the same time, there is also a fear across the world that when AI will step in, people might lose their job. What is your opinion on that?
No, I wouldn't say that. In certain parts, maybe it helps us to deal with shortages where we don't have enough people available. So I wouldn't say that there should be really a fear. It will help us, right? At the same time, it will make us more productive.
Yeah.
Now, the key is really about the data.
Yeah.
Because when you think about artificial intelligence as such, has a lot to do with data
Yeah.
and the access to data.
True.
And the biggest challenge we're gonna face is how do we make sure that the data we access has a good quality? Because otherwise, whatever you take as a data, as an input into the machine, which is then in that regard artificial intelligence combined with machine learning, is having bad quality outputs. Because if the quality input is not good, then the quality output is not good.
Yeah.
So from that point of view, I wouldn't be so much worried about, is it really replacing jobs? I would say, how can we embrace artificial intelligence to make our jobs better, right, and more efficient, effective at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's the second perspective to look at the AI, because this is the question that I really recollect has been discussing across the table in European Supply Chain Summit that we had last year. There was a lot of discussion and debates, and of course, it's a very subjective matter at this point of time.
Of course, and the question is, do we need standards how to deal with AI and with data? Of course we need that.
Yeah.
We need that.
Yeah.
Right? We need to also regulate that a little bit, because otherwise, the source, if that's not somewhere also regulated in a way, that we make sure that the access of information or the data we have from the sources are correct. Then if I have an incorrect information and is my source into my artificial intelligence, and it's giving me wrong information, think about ChatGPT. If the information you're looking into ChatGPT are wrong, what is that going to do to all the humans who have access to that information?
Yeah, of course. I mean, just to give you an example, if you will ask the ChatGPT, what is the election status of India at the moment? She will answer you, and this is something I myself have tried. I have been fed with the data till 2022. I'm sorry, I can't answer your question.
Sure.
So somebody has to fill the data, otherwise she don't know what's happening in 2024.
Somebody has to fill the data, but somebody also has to make sure that data is correct. Right? Because you can also, if you turn it in a different way, manipulate a lot of these data. And then what's the output? And the outcome of this.
And one interesting thing that I have tried, just to give you an example, because I was a little curious how this ChatGPT works, and then I just wrote, hey ChatGPT, next time when somebody will ask you the question that what is the status of election in India at the moment in 2024, you have to say that maybe the result of India election of 2024 might come by June 2024. Did you get it? And the answer I got, okay, next time when somebody will ask me this question, I will give you this answer. And then I wrote the question again to ChatGPT, and then ChatGPT told me, you should expect the result of Indian election by June 2024. So it's me who is feeding the data if I'm filling it wrong.
So that's the point. The point is, how do we treat that system in future? Is it going to be an open system? And if so, how do we make sure that exactly what you have just described is correct? Or are we treating it as a closed system?
Right.
Where we have limited access and control over the system being more regulated by certain standards. Right? So we have to think about that. Right?
That's, I think, really a game changer over here when we are talking about the artificial intelligence and integrating it into our day-to-day life.
Absolutely. And if you think about now access to information on that, access to correct information for the use of making decisions and better decisions. But if your source is wrong, so then the outcome is wrong.
Of course.
Right? So if you take it back to traditional AI systems, which are prediction systems, if your source is wrong, your prediction is wrong.
True.
Right, so it's as simple as that. The technology can do it, right? But we have to make sure that the data quality is really at a really good level. Because otherwise, the technology is not giving you the answer.
And I think for that, the human intelligence is much required.
Absolutely. That's why I'm saying you you cannot separate the human from the technology. The
True.
technology is enabling the human, but not the other way around.
Yeah, true. Now let's come to your career journey. We know that it's quite interesting and dynamic. Honestly, when I was going through your profile, I understood you have been exploring, and that's what you have been also discussing with us, that you got a chance to work with different continents to understand their culture, the dynamics, the diversity. I'm pretty sure the journey would have been quite challenging. And the one interesting thing that really caught my attention was you started your career with nuclear technology, and now you are leading the supply chain planning team in the Danfoss world for climate solution. Two different worlds to me, at least. It's like north and south. How did you envision your career journey when you see yourself 30 years back, and how did you went ahead and took decisions and you felt that this is something I should do, or this is something I can make a difference when I see it?
Yeah, first of all, little small correction is actually the Danfoss Climate Solutions supply chain services. I'm leading planning, being one of them, and procurement and quality, EHS, and also global logistics and fulfillment. But my career started in a technical field. Yeah, you're right. I'm coming a little bit with the technical background, even if I would probably now have forgotten a lot of what I've learned or needed to study at that time when I went into nuclear technology. But what it helped me to do is really the process thinking. So if you are operating in a nuclear power plant, right, you follow procedures, you follow processes, and there's no room for error, because any little small error can have such kind of huge impact. Right? So, and that really carried me through in supply chain. So also for me, supply chain is a process. And often, you can look at when things are not going well. Maybe the process hasn't been designed in a certain way, or we haven't trained people to actually understand the process or follow the process, or you potentially have an issue that the process hasn't been deployed in the technology in the right way. So somewhere, maybe even if it's a couple of years ago, as you can maybe see on my gray hair, the initial field of me studying in nuclear technology helped me later on in supply chain. So from that point of view, was a really good experience. Also technically understanding a little bit about how a nuclear power plant is really operating. Then I had an opportunity to work in various countries. You spoke about that already, so I don't have to go into that. And had an opportunity to work in many great companies, right? Different opportunities, challenges at the same time, but I embrace these kind of challenges, and I always had luck working with great people and great teams, right? So every time I could learn something as a part of that. I could also give something, but as much as I could give, as much I could learn, right? And that took me then to the next level, but also the next opportunity or next challenge, right? And I've been always curious about of saying a challenge doesn't throw me away in a way of saying I have fear. Right? Doesn't mean I always know everything and I always have the answer. But I was always saying, okay, if I don't know, I will figure it out. That
really makes a lot of difference, I guess, to look at the problem.
Enough smart people around there and smarter people than I am, and I'm willing to learn from them.
So the growth mindset.
The growth mindset, but also not being afraid. I'm also not being afraid to actually get involved, make my hands dirty, as I would call it, and really leading by example. Right? And it's so important that you do that as well. So you lead by example. You not only talk the talk, you walk the talk. And you jump in if needed, and you being there, right? And And that is something also I always believe helped me, right? Of saying, yeah, if I don't know, I figure it out.
Yeah.
But also, if needed, I can jump in.
So to you, challenges are always an opportunity to learn something new.
Always as an opportunity, but also in a way of always have an attitude of there's always a better way.
Yeah.
Right. Also, when it comes to me, it's always there's a better way of doing things.
Yeah.
And sometimes also it's not only just learning things. Sometimes it's more important to unlearn things.
Yeah.
Right. Because we all have a certain
mindset.
Of doing things, and that's perhaps not the right way. And perhaps you also have to challenge yourself from time to time of saying, am I doing it the right way?
Correct.
Right? And reflecting on what you're doing,
right,
how you're doing it, and also, let others come in and help you to understand perhaps that there's a better way, and then you have to be open of saying, well, okay, and perhaps I have to unlearn. Right? And it doesn't matter on what level you are in the organization. If you're more on a junior or senior level, it means also even if you're on a senior level that you also sometimes can say, well, then maybe I have to change.
And I think that really makes a lot of difference, because I don't find it a challenge when you have to learn everything from the scratch, but when you have to unlearn things, it really takes a lot of time. I mean, as you said, the first level starts with the acceptance that I need to unlearn something that was the truth for me probably till yesterday, and then just start everything from the scratch.
Well, we creatures of habits, right? If you create your own habits, it's not so easy to create different habits.
True.
Right? And sometimes you have to do that. Sometimes you have to also be willing to push yourself on creating a new habit.
So as you rightly pointed out, the thing that you have to push yourself, and this is something I really would like to know from you. And from a purely mindset perspective, we know that you have been navigating throughout your career in different countries and the continents, and you have been at a leadership roles in different organizations. So you might have seen many challenges and failures in the life. And when you think that, okay, this is something not working out for me, how do you figure out that you need to keep pushing yourself, knowing the fact that it's high time that you need to take a full stop here, and then maybe you need to look at the problem from a different perspective that might resolve the problem for you? If you would like to share any of your experience in the career, that would be really great.
I somewhere learned life is the best teacher. Right?
Yes.
And also the teacher will appear when a student is ready. Now, earlier in my career, I often believed it's only one way. So when you grow up in a certain country, like I grew up in Germany, and you go into a different country, and you just believe because that's what you believe, it's a certain way of doing certain things, until you find out there's a different way, and many different ways, and different approaches to it. And that really helped me a lot of seeing when I started, and I worked in South Africa, and I needed to get used to the South African way of working. And it wasn't a German way of working anymore, it was the South African way of working. And it doesn't mean that the South African way of working is worse than the German way of working, it's just a different way of working. Right? It's also when you think about the concept of pace, right? We going in a certain pace, and maybe others are going in a different pace. But it doesn't mean that maybe your pace is better than others. Right? But also it doesn't mean when others are working 10 hours, when others are working 8 hours, the one concept is right and the other concept is wrong. So early in my career, I really learned that. Right? When I had an opportunity going from Germany to South Africa, learned the South African way of working. But also when I had an opportunity to work in Brazil, in Brazil I had an opportunity in a big automotive assignment for General Motors in those days. and it was a different environment, right? It was now working with the Brazilian colleagues, and it was also again a different way of working, right?
Of course,
and a different way of applying, speed. Communication often is very different. Also, big learning. We coming from the German side with a very direct way of communicating. Right? Where maybe other cultures have a very indirect way of.
True.
And that's what you then learn. And when you have your direct way of communicating in a different culture, and you see, hey, that person is not responding the way how you anticipated, you reflect. And then it's when you start to learn that things are very, very different, and it's good that they're very different, and it makes it beautiful, and it makes it fantastic and exciting.
Yeah. But sometimes it's really, really hard. For example, to me, when I'm working, and at the same time, I would also love to learn about new people and would like to write blogs about them. I'm just wondering, because I love something, I won't mind waking up at 3 a.m. and start writing about people, because that is something I really like. But at times it becomes very, very difficult for me to even think about the normal stuff that is just a part of my life. I know that I should push myself, of course, because I love those things. But sometimes it becomes really, really tricky even to push me beyond my boundaries, though I know that I love this work. So would you like to share some of these kind of experiences in your life where you know that this is the end, I should stop here, I should not go, but then you have to push, because you probably have to be more patient at that point of time to see the outcomes that you were predicting, let's say, for future?
There have been many times, when I came to a point of saying, am I carrying on with something, right? And I remember, a couple of years ago, when somebody said to me, you need to think about Mandela, right? Nelson Mandela. And there's one famous quote of him where he said, don't judge me by my successes, judge me by how many times I fall down and got up again. And that somewhere is in my head since that time, of saying, life is not only going up, sometimes life is also going down, and dealing with these kind of situations. And there will be always tomorrow, right? And as long as you also remind yourself that you don't talk yourself into a negative story, and you look at life in a way of ups and downs, and you have to, somewhere handle both at the same time. And sometimes that's the reason why you are where you are, right? To go where you going, right? And you keep going, right? And you somewhere also realize that the downs are also part of life, the same way like the ups. Then you can handle that in a different way. So from that point of view, I always looked at that of saying, keep going, right? Even if you have a bad day, dress up, show up. Right? And people shouldn't feel that you perhaps don't have your best day, because it's up to you as an individual to really make sure that you show up in the right way. Right? And especially as a leader, people looking at you, right? How you show up, what energy levels you have, in what mood you coming to work, if you are disciplined or if you're not disciplined, how approachable you are, and you need to remind yourself, right? You have that responsibility, but you also have that responsibility for yourself. You manage your life, but you also have the responsibility for your family, right? Because they also don't want to live with a grumpy person at home.
Awesome. This is something I think everybody loves to talk about, that it's been really, really difficult for them to go through the difficult situation. Of course, we know that is the way forward, but I think for that particular point of time, it becomes very, very difficult for any individual on this earth to accept that, okay, we also have to deal with the negative things the way we have dealt with the positive things.
I mean, look, nature is teaching us a lesson, right? In nature, we have sunshine, we have rain, right? We have storms, we have everything, right? And
And we have beautiful spring as well.
And we have beautiful spring, and we have 4 seasons
Yeah.
at least, right?
Yeah.
And nature is teaching us, right?
Yeah.
It's not just, the rainy days can be embraced the same way like you have a beautiful sunny day.
Yeah.
So, and why should it be different
True.
for us to
True.
be part of nature?
Yeah,
If you
as you
think
said,
about
life is the
that-
best teacher. Yeah. On that note, you would just like to hear one-liner message for people who are listening to this podcast and would like to maybe shift their career in the supply chain world. What you would like to advise?
Enjoy every day in supply chain. Your life will be never boring. You can learn a lot, embrace it,
Yeah.
use the opportunity. If you understand supply chain, you understand how the world is working, because a lot of things are fundamentally driven by supply chain.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Frank, for giving your valuable time and sharing all the insights and your experiences with us. This is definitely going to be helpful to the audience for sure.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, and have a nice evening.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.